Hello, and welcome to the Business Brunch, your place to connect, learn, and thrive. My name is Melinda Ward, and I am here with Executive Coach Extraordinaire, Sarah Farmer, and the guru of marketing and mission statements, Vanessa Ashworth. I'm here specializing in consulting, consultant management, and business transformation. So we are here to be your working from home team or your hybrid working home team. We're here to work with you, answer your questions, give you some great information, and just help you feel connected to us and to one another. So open up the chat, let us know who you are, where you're from, and how it's going, what you got up to this past weekend. If you want to ping anybody else in, today our topic is on mindset mastery, which is a remarkable topic. It's something that there's a lot of buzzwords around these days, being authentic and imposter syndrome, that sort of thing. Sarah is going to blow all of us out of the water with some amazing insights as to why this relates to everybody and some top tips for how to identify and address any of these concerns. So one point before I forget, because I'm liable to, if you see chat comments that come in that you don't see in your feed, it's because we stream across many platforms. So you will only see the comments within your individual feed. So if you don't see something, doesn't matter, you are not alone. Keep on commenting and let us know what questions you might have. So first off, let's get up to what we did this past weekend. And if anybody saw Sarah's post this morning, there was a bit of a preview and some lovely photos. So we'll go to Sarah first.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's not often I do much at all, really, other than work. So this weekend was my sister's wedding, and it was just amazing, and I had the best day, and all of her friends and all of the extended family are just gorgeous, and everyone got dressed up, and it was the first time in ages that we had actually gone out and seen people. And if Penny Dell sees this, she'll laugh, because she was talking about going out and seeing and touching and prodding people. And I kept going up to people, going, humans. But I had to give a bit of a speech, which did scare me. I did have a bit of imposter syndrome, and I did say to them all, I wish they were all on little squares, because I'm used to that on Zoom. But it went well, and it was just, the best day. It was really lovely, and it was great. And you had a good one as well, Vanessa, didn't you? You had a nice busy time.
I had an epic weekend, but your photos look gorgeous. And absolutely the imposter syndrome and getting out and dressing up and touching people, there was loads of that this weekend. So Friday night I was at Leah Turner's summer LinkedIn party up north in Manchester. So again, these are people I've seen on LinkedIn. A lot of the ladies, I thought, they're going to be really glamorous, and there's me, 5'2". So I brought a prop, right? Because everyone always, when people opt into web meet me, they always go, "Oh, aren't you little?"
I said that when I first met you.
Little on Friday night. Look at 5 inches. 5 inches. I hobbled home. Anyway, so that was epic. Yeah, meeting all these wonderful people from LinkedIn, and lots of hugging and everything. It was great. That was good. What did we do? What else did I do? Saturday was the date from hell. So Saturday morning, this guy who I'd been kind of talking to said, "Shall we meet?" He became unexpectedly free. Normally, I'd do a bit more preparation and research. If you've not, I posted about it on Sunday. Oh my God, it was the worst day ever. It was hilarious in how bad and awful and cringeworthy it was, and I could not get away quick enough. It was so funny. He was like a real life troll. When you get these internet trolls who say something and everyone jumps in with anger and agitation. It was him in real life, but he was completely oblivious that his opinions might be not everybody else's opinions. So the first thing he said, even though he knew I was a marketer, was that there was no point of marketing. If a product's good, it will sell itself. I'll get to. I know you've got lots of, but oh my god, I could tell.
Yeah, I think this is a whole show on its own, isn't it?
It could be. Oh, I mean, we could do loads of shows on my dating exploits in the past. But,
We should.
But you know, at the end, because I'd been sat there, I'd finished my drink, and I was just politely waiting until I could get away, but I could not get away quick enough. And it's when I'd kind of thrown in, because of this internet troll thing, the cyclists, and he just bit, and he just went for it, you know, as they do on Facebook, and I just thought, what an idiot. And I fed him this and he just bit and went for it. And then as soon as he then likened it to gun licenses and guns don't kill people, people do, I just said, let me stop you there. Yeah. This is where I leave. Thank you very much. And I just walked out. Oh my goodness. I just walked away laughing. I've been laughing ever since. And then my little boy, who's 10, was at Cub Camp, and I picked him up at 3:00 on Sunday afternoon after he'd not slept and not washed for the whole weekend, and took him to an Ed Sheeran concert. And it was just magical. That must have been absolutely magical. And seeing his love and just singing his heart out and playing the air guitar, and it was just absolute magical memory making. So yeah, jam-packed weekend. Sorry, I've gone on.
And Melinda, very quickly, because Vanessa's was so busy, did you do anything?
I don't get out much.
Mine was actually a bit more quiet. I wasn't. I'm kind of fighting something. I don't know what it is, but I know it's not. I know it's not COVID. I did test this morning just to be, because I was curious.
Well, we can't catch it online anyway. So
no, you can't. We don't think, not this kind of virus. But I would say that the biggest thing, like physically, that I did, which it's something I do a couple times a year, is I've got neighbors who are pensioners, and they can't physically, while they do take care of their back garden really well, they can't physically cut a big hedge that's around their front garden. So I got out the hedge clipper and gave it its semi-annual haircut and tidied up the front garden for them. So
you're a hero.
Well, no, it's something I kind of like, channeling my inner Edward Scissorhands now and again. It's kind of fun. Because when you work online a lot, I find that, you know, you can do loads of stuff, but you don't have anything that you can look back and point to and say, I did that. So, you know, when you do something like cutting this massive unruly hedge back and bashing it into a decent shape, you know, you can look at that. You can look at the result. I did that. It looks good. I'm pleased with that. So that tangible result is actually quite nice to have once in a while. So, you know, I do it for them, but in a way I do it for me also, because I like having that visible, you know, yes, cause and effect, I did that response.
Which is why I love volunteering at Rivington, because that's that. You're going to turn up in the morning, everyone gets busy with spades and shovels, and after 5 hours you turn around and you see what an amazing result you've had, what a difference you've made. Exactly. And it's absolutely addictive. You feel great. And so you go back again and again. Exactly.
Exactly. And I was thinking of you, Vanessa, as I was doing battle with this hedge. But anyway, we have some comments that have come in, I believe.
I was just going to ask, does anyone say hello?
Anybody who's not said hello, please drop in and give us an update in the chat. And then we will, in short order, get on to our main topic of the day.
Fabulous. Right. So very quickly going through, we have Catherine Hyde, who says, what a great combination.
I presume she means
Corin is back. He says, hi there. The fabulous Danny Wareham is back and says, happy Monday all. We've got James Mall, who says, hi, Sarah, Melinda, Vanessa, hello to you. Danny tells us about his weekend. He says his was a random mix of first-time bricklaying, a retaining wall, veg planter, well done, web design, bookkeeping, study and party envy. Okay. And he also then goes on to say, oh, come on, Vanessa, segment, position and target. You know it. I know, but sometimes if you're free and someone's sitting, I'd had such a good night the night before, and I'd got dressed up and I'd worn heels and painted my nails. I even painted my toenails. And so when someone then gave me another excuse to go out, I thought, I'm ready. I was all false tan ready. You see, it would have been rude to say no. And sorry, James says he didn't do a good job of selling himself, Vanessa. No, he certainly didn't. And Machi says it's reminded him of when he mowed an unruly back garden. Sorry, bees, you'll have to make do with wildflowers. And Amechi says, hello, panel. Nice to see you all. Hello again.
Amechi.
And Helen is here and says it's finally lovely to finally catch us. There we go. And Andy, I met Andy on Friday night. And he says, there you go, you met me. Very interested in imposter syndrome. Fabulous. Well, I'm sure Sarah has got lots of interesting things to say to her.
So that's a perfect segue, isn't it?
I hope too. I really do. Right.
So Sarah, I'm really curious because of course, we've been working together for some time and, doing this show. And I know you've had this really kind of standing interest in the ideas of mindset mastery and imposter syndrome and so forth. So what got you started down this path? We've never had that conversation.
Oh, no, we haven't, have we? And for those of you who've never seen the show before and don't know what I do, I'll just explain that quickly as well, but then I'll come to that question. So I'm an executive coach and I work with senior leaders and executive C-suite people who are incredibly competent, but they all have one thing in common, which is they struggle with imposter syndrome. And so this can be over a range of things. It could be looking for new jobs. It could be onboarding. It could just be they're in situ and the whole team is not feeling as confident as they could be. So those are the people that I work with. I also work with brand new senior leaders as well, who naturally are going from sort of maybe a manager role into quite a serious position where their role really changes and they have to step up. And guess what? They suddenly get this bit of the imposter kicks in. But mine started really, well, back when I was 7, I was the only Jew in the school. I wasn't really, there was 12 of us, but people may have heard me talking about this story. But I realized at that stage, being one of 12 Jews in a very, very non-Jewish school, that being Jewish made you stand out and it made you feel bad and people picked on you. And that was my first experience of the imposter. It was like, I don't belong here. Then I watched my mom go through her degree as a psychologist, and I used to listen outside her door as she was psychologizing, really counseling her clients. And I was fascinated. I was just hooked. That was about age 14. I didn't know then that I'd be doing something similar, but a different vein, but similar people. So that's when the fascination started. And then throughout my career, I've been interested in training and development. But it wasn't until I went self-employed and I did my first course in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, that I realized how much control we had over our brain. I had no idea. So I knew all these skills, I knew how to train leaders, but I didn't know how to make the brain work. And then shooting forward, lots more courses, lots more reading, just fascination with neuroscience has led me to where I am now over the last few years. Making sure that people get their mindset right first, learning how to do that, and then learn the skills, then they have amazing results. And yeah, so it's been a really long journey, starting from age 7, pretty much.
I like that you said about kind of you can control your brain, because I've not actually thought of it like that, but it's kind of learning and knowing what we've got inside us, but actually you can change.
You can. I have to say that one of the trainers on that course is a really good friend of mine called Tom Phillips, who is an NLP master prac. He works with Richard Bandler. He runs great courses on NLP. If you want anything there, go and find Tom Phillips. But he wound me up something rotten on that course because I wasn't in the mindset for it. He kept saying, well, you can think like that, Sarah, or you could think like this. I was like, no, I can't, because I can't stop thinking like this. I can't stop that. And after him going at me, I thought, oh my God, I'm making bad choices. And a real switch just turned. And I was like, okay. And then my business changed. And then I changed, and everything was changing, and it was purely down to how I was thinking.
Mindset mastery, that's what it's all about.
Mindset mastery, exactly.
Do you think a lot of people are kind of stuck in that mode where they're just thinking, oh, it's too late for me. I am the way I am. I've always been this way. And blah, blah, blah.
And I think that's why it's probably one of the best kept, worst kept secrets in the boardroom, is that it exists in really, really senior level people who assume they should be confident and know it all, and they daren't speak up. And yet we all know, we watch them and think, you're making bad decisions here, and because your self-belief isn't as good as it could be. Sometimes it's an overinflated self-belief, which is the other side of things.
Yeah.
But they don't think they can have the help. And then when you talk to them about it, they realize it's actually a really, not easy, but there is a straightforward way to change that and take control and understand yourself better and enjoy what you're doing more and make better decisions and trust yourself and procrastinate less. They're like, boom, so I can go and do this now, and I can go and do that, and I look after people better and I lead better. But yeah, people do believe that it's just the way it is, and it's so lovely when you watch their eyes open and just go, oh, I don't have to feel like that. And we can't forget that although this isn't about mental health, it is about mental health, because if imposter syndrome remains, it can get quite chronic, and chronic imposter syndrome leads to increased anxiety, increased stress, which leads to poor health. Mental health gets affected. People are off sick more, or they're at work, they're present, the presenteeism rate is high, they're in, but the lights are kind of on dim. And it's costing us as humans and, organizations billions of pounds a year not to do this simple thing, which is go, hey, look, you can feel better, and this is how. So really what I'm doing is banging the drum now with a lot of other people going, this thing exists, for goodness sake. And it's on the mild side of things, it bothers people a bit. On the middle side of things, it stops them doing, being, feeling great, getting the jobs they want, getting the promotions they deserve. And on the far end, they're contributing to the mental health burden, which is in Europe alone around £400 billion a year.
So it's really costing companies a lot of money to not recognize and address this sort of issue with proactive training. Instead of, because a company might say, oh, well, we have, this like employee program where people can call in and get confidential help if they need it. But do you think a lot of people just don't kind of realize what's happening?
I think a lot of people don't understand what it is. And that actually came across loud and clear on Saturday when I wasn't going around trying to pitch my business. However, people do say, what do you do? And I would say 50% of the people I talked to said, well, what is imposter syndrome? Now, this is also because of the type of people that were at the wedding. They were, there was a specific, I'm not going to go into that because I'll get wrapped on the knuckles if I say anything I shouldn't say. But they were very confident people and a lot older, but they didn't know what this imposter syndrome thing was. So I've forgotten your question now because I just went off on one about the wedding, but you were asking, remind me?
Well, it was more asking about, do you think that there's a problem with people not realizing the issue and, more importantly, that it's fixable? So a company just saying, oh, well, someone can call a helpline if they're having mental health issues. Well, that's all fine, but maybe people would only do that if they think, oh, that's just for someone who's perhaps suicidal in the extreme, or, having a breakdown, as opposed to someone who's just not succeeding as much as they could.
So I think there's a lot to unpack in there. There's it's loads of good points, but a lot of people don't know that they could feel better. And I use that word loosely, but they could feel less imposter-like. And let's just explain what imposter syndrome is in a minute, but I'll answer this question first. There's also a real block when we start talking about mental health. Now, the word mental, I wrote a post on this last week. As soon as we say mental, people imagine mental institutions, mental people, and they think, well, I don't want to be associated with mental. So they don't want to admit that they've got a problem. They don't want to go onto phone lines at work because a lot of them think they're tapped, or that their bosses are going to know and it's going to show up on their records or something. We haven't created a space yet where it's safe to talk about this and accept that some things that are impacting our brain health, like our back health or our heart health, could be made better just by talking about it and getting a little bit of help and support. Some people need more, some people need less. But until the stigma of mental health is removed, or at least diluted, I think it's going to be really hard. But a lot of people don't know they've got it. So let me explain what it is, because a lot of people don't understand. Are there any questions coming through first yet before?
Yeah, we've got a few.
Yeah, let's go. There are a few more. So Andy, just catching up, says, we had that
We
one
know.
already.
Don't stop showing off about Friday night.
No, it was lovely talking to me. There you go.
Oh, get off.
What else we got? Amit says hello, good afternoon from Pakistan.
Hey, hello.
Julia says that she needs a job, and so I would say, Julia, look back 2 weeks to the business brunch where I told you how to update your profile and get busy on LinkedIn to get visible and get hired.
And if you feel you can't, listen to this, because this is the bit you need to make you do that.
There you go, absolutely. So it's all good learning stuff. Juliet says happy Monday. So happy Monday to you. Andy says very well articulated. Ashley has made it. We've not seen you for a while. Lovely to see you,
Ashley.
And he says, have you missed me much? Yes, we have.
Yes.
We have missed you, and we're delighted that you're back. So welcome. Go, Sarah, keep banging those drums. Says Juliet. Danny, who's always got the statistics and the learning, says that you read a reported figure that had inefficient presenteeism costing 3 times as much as absenteeism. That's fascinating, isn't it?
And he's right. He's absolutely right.
I believe that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Juliet says, lovely to meet you all. Chronic imposter syndrome and the link to mental health. Great discussion. Excellent. Much needed discussion as well. And he says, this is brilliant. I've had some success from reading The Chimp Paradox. Good book. I'm very interested in your opinion of that book, if you're familiar with it.
Very.
We are up to speed.
So yes, I am. And actually, part of when I was doing the NLP training, one of the first books that I read and was recommended to read was The Chimp Paradox. I have a copy just over there. I read it over and over again. There's also another great book called Why the F Can't I Change, which is by a neuropsychologist whose name's gone out of my head. But yeah, just read. And alert, Sarah Farmer, executive coach, has written a book on this too. And it's just got into editing and will be out for launch in November.
Ooh, amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. Who knew? So let's just talk about what it is. So it's a psychological pattern of thinking. So as soon as we say psychological, we know it's to do with the brain. People doubt their accomplishments, and they often spend a lot of time internalizing this fear that they're going to be exposed as a fraud. Now, acute and chronic, the more acute it is usually just because something's happened. Maybe you've lost your job. I say just something happened. You've lost your job. You feel derobed. You're going for interviews. You're getting no's. You're stuck in a job. You're being bullied by a new manager. You know, it can really just kick in. You've never had it before, and there it is. Treatment's the same. I call it treatment, but the help is the same. A lot of these thoughts, though, if they stay, as I say, they can become chronic, but this can be irrespective of the mountain of value that you're sat on. And it's really important to say that it's rife amongst really successful senior level people. This is not something that just youngsters have starting a new job. It's really, really rife. And the other thing that's really important is it's not about competence. And I'm hoping this message is the thing that comes through louder and clearer than anything else, because we think if we say we're not feeling 100% confident or we're feeling a bit wobbly, people will assume our competence is affected, and it isn't. I am just as competent with my imposter syndrome as I am without it. And I do have it occasionally. It's good for you a little bit because it keeps you on the level. But not if it's crippling you. So it's not about competence at all. What happens is, though, is if your confidence is effective, which it is, your ability to make better decisions, lead more effectively, all these things that we do are impacted. So although you're already successful and having great results, your kind of your peak's there, but actually without imposter syndrome, it's up there. So you could do even more, but it isn't just you that it's impacting. It's everyone else. You know, you drop this stone in and there's a massive ripple effect. And I've seen marriages fail because of it on the severe level. I've seen people lose businesses because of it, or drop out of doing a business because they couldn't cope with it. You know, it has a massive impact on people. And the other thing to say is it's not about social style. A lot of people are talking about, oh, I'm an introvert, which means this. And I love that. I think it's really important to talk about communication styles. It's another massive passion of mine, the communication piece. But extroverts and introverts have imposter syndrome. I'm a raving extrovert. I've had it. I've got it. It sneaks in. It's just how it shows up. So what we've got to be very careful of is to not assume that just because someone has an introverted preference and they don't necessarily speak up as loudly in meetings, that they have imposter syndrome. You need to look for clusters of clues, which is the same for recognizing introversion and extroversion as well. And if you have it, or if you notice someone else has got it, you can do something about it. And that's the main message. I'm sorry, the dogs are just now barking, as they would do. Mm-hmm. So I hope does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you kind of perfectly explain why we should take it seriously and why everyone should think about it, because it does affect everyone, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It can affect it. Well, I mean, yes and no. So there's we talked about this off air, didn't we? And I've created something which I'm not going to give the name of yet because I don't want to. I want to keep it a bit of a secret, but it'll be in the book, and it's talking about the 5 levels of imposter syndrome. And on the one side, you've got chronic imposter syndrome, which is really quite debilitating. It leads to ill health, without a doubt. You then kind of come up a bit and you're into not necessarily acute, but more mild imposter syndrome, which is still self-limiting, but it's not as debilitating, but it can still, it impacts us in many shapes and forms. And then you've got this bit in the middle, which is this utopic state, which I don't say is no imposter syndrome. I say it's low, because if you haven't got a little bit of humbleness, I don't want you to be over humble because that comes across as imposter syndrome, but a little bit of humbleness, it's great. And occasionally you might dip over into a little overconfidence because you're excited, especially as an extrovert, that happens. Mm-hmm. But as long as you stay more within that mid ground, you're in a really good place where you can feel the fear and do it anyway, make some mistakes, get up, keep going. And then the very far end of that is extreme overconfidence, which people often think is, how do you put that on an imposter syndrome scale? To me, imposter syndrome is you're pretending to be something you're not. You are not showing up as the best you can be. And when you are really, really egotistical and full of yourself, you rarely have the proof behind it. It's just an ego thing. And that is self-limiting. And that has a massive impact on absenteeism, presenteeism, people leaving, attrition rates. So either end ain't great. It just looks different. So what I'm doing is aiming to get just a little bit of the world into this bit here, which is just a really nice place to be. And that takes a bit of work for a lot of people.
Okay. So how do we then? What do we do if we recognize that we have fleeting moments of it, or it's debilitating, but that's what it is that's causing us to not fulfill our potential and slows us down? What can we do about it, Sarah?
Okay, so just before I tell you what you can do about it, because I'm going to give you the brief overview of the Eagle Development Program, which is my program for helping people take control of imposter syndrome and build their confidence, their self-belief, their self-awareness, their resilience. And I have to say, the results are just incredible. So I was doing this one-to-one with clients for the last 2 years, and now I've taken it into a program where I'm doing it with multiple people. I wanted to see, it's on two beta runs actually at the moment, to see whether it would work. Oh my God, it works. And actually maybe even better, because they've got this cohort together that are going, I've seen you, I've just caught you doing that thing again. So they're moving fast. But the reason that the things to look out for are things like, and this comes from the imposter meter scorecard, which is if you want to do it and you want to see whether you've got imposter syndrome or not, go to my profile, and underneath my name, there's an imposter syndrome scorecard link. You can click on that and take it, and that'll tell you it's 16 questions. It takes under 2 minutes. But the main findings from that, and there's about 200 and odd people that have done this now, is that people with imposter syndrome feel like a fraud and think one day they'll be found out. Okay. They doubt their abilities. They have a fear of change and they get stuck. So if this sounds like you, there's a chance it could be something you're dealing with. They are master procrastinators. This isn't just an introvert's way of taking time to make a decision. It's way beyond that. It's getting so stuck that you could take a year to make a decision, or you just don't make one at all. There's also something around the lack of desire to share success. People say, well, that's introversion. Yeah, it could be, but also if I share my success and I have imposter syndrome, what if that success never repeats itself and I look an idiot and then I get found out? So we're back to I'm a fraud, I'll be found out. They have reduced self-confidence, less comfortable talking to peers, appearing on screen, and definitely fear feedback. There's more, but that gives you, an idea. And remember, look for clusters of clues. Just because I don't like feedback doesn't mean I have imposter syndrome. It may just mean that I was given really bad feedback at some stage by somebody who was shit at giving feedback and I don't like it anymore, which is also very common.
Yeah, I think there are some, there's been some comments coming in that maybe we should have a look at.
Yeah, let's have a look at those and I'll tell you how to deal with it.
Okay, so Amit says why development and training is so important in an organisation. Danny says, fantastic, Sarah.
Thank you, Danny.
Juliet says, Andy, it is a great book. She's reading it. She bought it for her son. It's one of her references when talking to others. I think there's a specific one for kids, isn't there? Which I got, I can't remember what it's called, to kind of work through these things.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, Amechi says, Nikki Jennings, handy resource. Amechi is tagging people in. You can't see the tags in the comments, sorry, but he's tagging people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amechi.
And Ashley says, of course, it does affect everyone. Danny says, most people get into the psychology because they want to know how people think. We should get into psychology to understand how we think.
Now that, can I just before you go on to that, but I'll go back to Ashley because there's a love heart on it. But that is vitally important. One of the most important things that I do with my clients, it isn't just about the confidence, it's about self-awareness. Any leader that wants to be one or is one, until they are more self-aware and understand how they're making decisions, why they're making decisions, the impact of those decisions, the whole thought process, which is totally unconscious most of the time, their leadership is never as good as it could be. When I help them see it, become conscious, then amazing things happen, because now they can stop and go, hold on, why am I doing that? Why am I avoiding this? Why have I chosen to go this way? Is it because X or is it reality? And then there's a whole bit about knowing what reality is, perception. But yeah, Danny's right. Show me the love heart.
Shall we give us the love heart? So Ashley says it's a case of embracing it. He's a big imposter syndrome sufferer, but getting better. But I love that I have it, as it does keep me grounded. Great explanation, Sarah. And then
you look at Ashley and, oh, thanks, Ashley, you're a star. If you look at Ashley and watch him, I think, is it Wednesdays Ashley's on?
He does a couple of shows, doesn't he, at the lunchtime? Okay. Yeah.
So if you look at Ashley, you would not know for a second that he suffers with imposter syndrome at all, because he's so gregarious and engaging on screen. And we have this image that people will be little shrinking violets and blah. They're really not. I've got it a bit. I know Vanessa's got it. I know Melinda's got it. But it's what you do with it that counts. It's how you use it. And don't let it take control of you.
Yeah, that whole, for me, the whole awareness was quite, an epiphany, because if you can recognize when you start second guessing and you can say, I'm doing that again, that's super powerful, because it's like, right, the little some people call them mind monkeys or whatever, but that little gremlins there saying, hey, are you sure?
Don't do that.
But when you can say, actually, yes, I am, and I don't need your permission, little gremlin, that's a great and powerful place to be. And so that is a tremendous gift that people can also give their teams, because once we become more aware of it, then we can extend that concept and that manner of approaching things to the people that are reporting to us. And so we can build better leaders also, by getting the help from Sarah and her program, but also by practicing these things ourselves and modeling that kind of behavior for folks who are new to our teams, or been in our teams a long time, doesn't matter, just to help everybody work better together.
And and part of the program, last part of it is about sharing your learning with others. Of course, I'm in business. I need to make money. I need to earn bread and jam to feed the children. They sometimes get more. But actually, I have a bigger dream than that. And that is that one of the things that really drove me to do what I do is when I joined the IT industry, and I don't care if they hear this, I had the worst leaders I've ever had in my life. For the first time ever, I developed anxiety to the point where I mean, now you probably wouldn't know it, but I couldn't speak without red coming up and taking it and sweating. And I couldn't speak to my senior leader. And my anxiety, it just made me ill. And I left and I handed my notice in to them. Anyway, but not within 2 years, and it really had an impact on me. I want to help create more environments where people never have to feel like that again, never get bullied, can stand up for themselves, leave shit bosses, leave poor companies with poor cultures, and create better places to work. So, sorry, on my soapbox a bit, but this is a bit bigger than just me, hence the book. I want it to be better because people are suffering more with mental health issues. And this is a big part of it, comes from poor leadership and poor culture. That's my bag. That's what I'm dealing with. I shall climb down off the soapbox.
Right. We've not got long left, so you need to now tell us how are we going to deal with it, Sarah? What are you going to do?
What are the top tips?
I'm going to tell you about the 5-step system that I use. It's called the Eagle program. And that's because, actually, I think it was you, Melinda, that said to me, it feels like being unshackled. And we were talking about soaring high and feeling free. So Eagle just came into mind. So thank you. If it wasn't you, take the praise.
Yeah, that was a long time. It feels like a lifetime ago, but it
was all you. So the E is for evaluate. And to evaluate what you're doing, we need to know what you're doing, why you're doing it. And that's deep work. That is when we go a little bit of a deep dive. It does cause a little bit of but it's important to do that, because if we don't know why we're doing it, we can't unpick it and stop it from happening. We need to be able to recognize it, and we need to know how often it's happening. So that's part one. Part two is to then analyze that a bit further, which is, okay, it's impacting you, but how? Mentally, physically, wealthily, otherly, what's the impact? But I talked earlier about dropping that stone in. Who else is it impacting? Friends, family, work, colleagues, people in the shops you've just been rude to because you're having a panic attack about something. It impacts a lot of people. And the reason we do that and go into that in a lot of detail is this is to do with threat and reward and how our brain works. If we don't know how bad this is and give ourselves a really good reason for changing, guess what? The mind gremlin pops in and goes, don't change, you're fine, stay as you are. That's just your brain trying to keep you safe from change. So that's why we do that bit of the work. The next bit, step 3, is generating something new. What do you want to think, feel, believe, do, say instead? That's the fun bit. And people are like, yeah, but I don't believe it. Doesn't matter. You can fake it until you make it. Absolutely. Your brain doesn't know the difference between truth and non-truth. You've proven that year and year again by telling yourself you were rubbish when you were great. So the opposite can also be true. So we create the new mantra, I suppose you can call it. Then the next stage is to practice, capture, repeat, coach. Capture what you're doing, practice it more. Make sure you plan before you practice, have real objectives for doing this. Otherwise it won't happen because your brain will take you back and say, don't do this. The amount of times people say to me, I think I'm going to stop now. It's a bit like when you're about to give birth. I've talked about this before. It's like that transition period. I've been in labour for 20 hours, but I'm going to stop now and not give birth. That's the hard bit. You're about to have a baby. You don't with imposter syndrome, but you get my point. And then the final bit is evolve. And this is where we share and embed the learning with others. Like you said, Melinda, taking it into organisations and helping other people deal with it. And one of my lovely clients at the moment, who's an MD in a very large organisation, coming to terms with his own self-confidence, and he's just an amazing, brilliant guy, but being a bit battered. He's now helping someone else who works for him. So he's spreading it, and I love that. But sharing it with others as well, your successes, because that's what allows people to trust you. But sharing your success in a way that is non-egotistical, with the right intent. It's just, hey, look, we've done this and this has happened. And as a result, this has been the result we've got. So people trust you more and buy into you. And that helps, whatever you want to do next be your reality. So those are the 5 steps. I've made it sound pretty simple. And actually, it is, if you are with someone who knows what they're doing. By the way, this is my 5-step system. This isn't something I've picked up off the internet off someone else. It's nothing new. It's a mixture of lots of different things, but it's what I do in my style, and with a community of people supporting you as well. So that's it. That's the 5 steps.
And if anybody is thinking, wow, that was awesome, I should have been writing it down. We always have, the replay is always available as soon as the presentation is finished on all the different channels. So if you want to watch it again, or if you'd like to share to somebody else, you can absolutely do that. So don't think, oh man, I missed it. You haven't.
And also, if people want to get in touch with me, I'm just updating my website at the moment, and you can get my details on my website, on my LinkedIn profile, to share, because I've really, I've reduced down what I'm offering. So it's very specific now, but it allows more people to get hold of this stuff if they want to. The next group program will start in September. And for those that don't feel that they can invest in it, I'm also going to open up a subscription service where you'll get contact with me or access to me once a month. So you can hear stuff like this, and then you can come in and ask me questions, but at a very, very reasonable price that anybody can access. Because as I say, it's not just about senior leaders and executive leaders. I want, every end to experience it if they can. So yeah, get in touch via the website if you're interested to know more, or just DM me on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. It sounds brilliant. As you said, I think that second part, the analysis, to kind of really understand the impact it's having, like the ripples on the pond, not just to yourself and the work that you do and how it slows your decision making and has that impact on your performance, but how it impacts kind of everyone else around you and your family and all the rest of it makes so much sense. And I imagine it's quite uncomfortable to kind of work through that. But then, as you said, they fully understand how important it is and how necessary it is to kind of deal with it, nip it in the bud and find ways to manage it.
You make a very good point, because I often when I get to module 2, which is that bit, I say, look, this might be a bit uncomfortable. And actually, most people come away going, it was fine, because they feel safe. Yeah. And because they already know that they're going in the right direction. I've explained why this is happening. So it doesn't happen just out of the blue. But it can feel for some people, but it's what they need. Some people do cry. Some people laugh. Some people sing. Maybe that's just me. But, weird things happen. But the point is, they get out the information they need. Yeah. Their brain needs to keep them on track. And without that, I'm sorry, but just telling someone to get on with it and cheer up and you'll be fine. Total waste of time.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting too. And I think everybody has seen, whether in politics or in their work life, people who are overconfident and kind of, just boastful and just too over the top with saying how great they are. But it sounds like that's actually another manifestation of what can be imposter syndrome. So it's like behind the scenes, so it's an overcompensation. So they're feeling they're lacking something. So they're having to tell everybody. So it's like the counterpose to people not wanting to broadcast success, because then people might expect more of you. And what if they do that? And what if you can't live up to that standard? But the flip side being kind of also on the spectrum of, imposter syndrome, but just like over shouting it. I think there's probably a lot more people who could do with some guidance than realize, let's say.
Oh, believe me, there are. There are plenty. The ones I enjoy working with are the ones that aren't like that, because I mean they are hard. I won't go there, but there's plenty.
Right, we are at the end. So any final thoughts, Sarah?
I would, just if you think you are struggling with it, or it's impacting you or somebody else, read a book, speak to me. I post loads about it, and there'll be courses on it, and you can get access to me on a closed Facebook group, which I'll let you know. Make sure you're on my mailing list, because I'll be sharing information about all of that. So just get in touch, and remember, it can and will be resolved if you want it to be. It's just a matter of choosing. And yes, it's an investment in time and money, but boy, is it worth it. And on that, I shall end.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sarah.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And so what do we have next week?
Next week, it's my turn again. I'm going to be continuing our occasional series on, consulting and business strategy, and how to approach a consulting career, and just tips for getting what you need out of people. So that's something that's relevant not only for people who are looking into getting into consulting, but people who work in teams, or just people in general. Exactly. So join us next week for that.
Look forward to it.
And thank you for joining today.
Thank you everyone for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye. The final word, Randy, because we enjoyed it. Thank you. Fabulous. Right. We shall see you all next week.
Have a great week, everyone.
Yep. Take care. Bye.
Bye.